When you're looking for assistance with your Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck build, you hire the part-time henchman. I am Jeremy.
Casey.
And Jesse.
Joanna had to bow out. She is having some medical issues. Not going to get involved in it, but hope she gets better soon. What about you guys? How are you doing?
I just finished our little project here, so my brain is like knee-deep in horror.
Wow, and you could get that with any election period, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh yeah, and early elections did start today.
Yep.
I made my effort to go to try, and we vote over at a library around the corner. The library is plastered in signs with lines going out into the street, so it looks like a good turnout, and that's just early election.
Yeah, I still have about about 3 weeks here to my election period, and yeah, I'm always one of those in-person people. I don't like leaving it to chance that something gets lost in the mail.
Yeah, I don't do that either. I always do it in person.
Yeah. Jesse, what's going on?
I had a terrible morning.
Oh?
Showed up late to work. Got to do all kinds of shit, including inventory. But at the same time, the guy who worked last night didn't do a damn thing.
So there were still, passed out hobos in the middle of the floor, or what?
No, just he didn't stock anything, so I ended up doing that first before anything else.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, back and forth between 3 buildings.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of annoying.
Yeah, I would say so. The week was generally work, but the weekend turned out to be so busy, and it's mostly my fault. Right after work on Friday, I got changed into my Mario outfit and went to a local independent wrestling promotion, Maverick Pro Wrestling. Mm-hmm. And they decided to move venues at the last minute to a pole dancing studio or school. It's called X-Pole. So, already my mind was in several different places just by standing outside this place trying to think about what are the classes like. But it was supposed to start at 7. It got started late because of a setup and a movie shoot. Didn't end up getting even out of the building until about 11:15, which is pretty late for me personally. Got home, got dinner, got home, ate, got into bed somewhere around 12:45. Woke up at 6 so I could get my car over to my dealership and get it worked on. It's just time for standard maintenance and a couple other expanded things. My car's 10 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't have an appointment, that went until about 1:45.
Oh.
And as I'm driving back to my home, I kept thinking about a birthday party I got invited to on the opposite side of Los Angeles, but I don't like midday Saturday traffic. And I had this mental debate because I was hoping to get out of there earlier, but before I knew it, I was already changing freeways and on my way to that location, so I just said, okay, we'll see if I can make it there in a decent amount of time. I did.
Yay!
Didn't leave the birthday party till about 11:30. Got home at 12:30. Woke up at about 7:30 the following day. Sat in my chair for about 2 hours trying to relax, and then realized it was a community day in Pokemon Go. So I went out to my park for 3 hours. Did that. Then I finally did my usual weekend errands. Sorry, almost forgot the word there. And then I got home. I did some work around the house, cleaned the rabbit's cage, and I didn't actually sit down to relax until about 8:45 p.m. on Sunday. At that point, I realized I missed 2/3 of the episode of Doctor Who, so I didn't even bother to turn it on. And that was my weekend. It was pretty much all go from morning to night.
I did not have such a weekend.
Yeah. In between it all, I was reading. So, man, it's been a hell of a few days.
Oh, and Daredevil was a thing.
That's
a thing.
I finished that midday on Saturday.
Yeah, I haven't gotten around to watching that, actually.
I would say it's honestly probably the best of the 3 seasons so far.
So far. I missed the suit, but I'm really enjoying Bullseye's origin story.
Yeah, the suit is... I guess I never really considered that part of it since we were introduced to him in this Frank Miller costume that he's wearing. And now that he's boiled back down to it, it almost feels like the character's gotten back to what made him important.
I can understand the characterization of that. However, when it comes to superhero suits, I am a total clothes whore. The suit maketh the man, so to speak.
Yeah, I guess now it's just a question as to whether or not there will be a season 4. The star Charlie Cox hopes so, but 2 of the Netflix Marvel series have recently been canned by Netflix.
Yep.
Yeah. but it looks good because it really comes down to it. Marvel doesn't really have the direct say so.
No,
These are Netflix's series to cancel should they decide to do so.
Yeah, I love the internet theories all over Facebook of various people just saying Marvel's recalling their heroes. They don't want Netflix to have it anymore. They don't seem to understand. Netflix made the contract. Netflix signed the stars. Netflix has the right to say whether or not they're still doing it.
Yeah, they have the characters in perpetuity until they decide we don't want them.
Mm-hmm.
So Daredevil's not going anywhere. It's still drawing people in.
Well,
and apparently,
I was going to say neither are Cage and Iron Fist, because technically, if they're the same kind of contracts that they signed with the movie studios, Netflix could leave Cage and Iron Fist fallow for about 6 years and still not lose the licenses. I think it would be like 7 to 10 years before they would.
Yeah, and you know what? I hate doing speculation. Whenever I'm writing stuff down, especially like on Facebook, because I like to type news, I hate doing speculation. But on this one, it would be really nice if they were going to do a Power Man and Iron Fist show. And I wish that was what is going to happen from this.
Honestly, when I heard that Luke Cage got canceled, I thought that's the direction they might be going with the two.
Yeah.
They could, but that's the type of thing that, I wouldn't count on it until Netflix actually says, guess what we're doing.
Yeah. But considering where both their respective shows kind of ended, that seems kind of hard to do.
It technically wouldn't be if you were drawing the characters back in, because both of them are they're so entrenched in New York. I think a Heroes for Hire series would be easier than you believe it would. The only thing that sucks, though, is that both of their respective series ended on such incredible character cliffhangers. I really wanted to see where they were going with those before I wanted to see them together again. But
well, it seems to me if they were really going to do it, they would have already announced it to hype it up.
Mm-hmm.
Or to at least do some PR damage recovery.
You would think they would have
really had to.
Yeah, you would have think they would have announced it hand in hand with the cancellation of their individual series.
I mean, who's really surprised that Iron Fist got canceled? I mean, not me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I am a bit. It was on a hell of an upswing in the ratings.
No, I agree. I loved season 2 for the most part. And I liked that it was going deeper into the lore with Oliver. Was it? Yeah. Oliver Randall.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I got his name right.
I think the biggest problem with an Iron Fist series is not technically the character. To me, the bigger problem is the fact that his rogues gallery is pretty shallow.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a whole lot of villains of his own.
More reason to have a Power Man and Iron Fist kind of thing going on.
Yeah, well, I mean, Luke Cage has a much bigger pantheon of villains, but technically the majority of them have not been seen even in the comic books outside of background shots. They none of them really graduate into big players.
And Iron Fist villains are getting poached and put into different series, aka Sabretooth.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So it's just so bizarre. The subject of this week is the first volume of the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, the 2017 series by Archie Comics. We can get into that after the news of the week. First up, Marvel Comic News. We'll talk about the various intellectual properties owned by the House of Mouse and what moves they're making in the comic book world. And it turns out a character is getting... I would technically consider this a soft reboot. Did anyone read Shuri #1 this past week?
No, I saw the cover. I intended to check it out, but I didn't read it.
Okay. I didn't read it myself, but I got a synopsis off of comicbook.com. To back up, for those that don't know, the what you saw in the Black Panther film is very far from what happened in the comic books. In the comic books, she's technically savvy, but she is not the genius you see in movies. She is also not pop culture literate. She's a very self-serious individual. And during a period where T'Challa was unavailable to be Black Panther, she became Black Panther, which created the usual older fanboy cry out and people wanting a return of the character. So her reign as Panther was very short-lived.
Yeah.
Fast forward to the current Shuri #1 from this past week. The Black Panther is busy with the intergalactic empire of Wakanda. There's basically a fleet of Wakandan ships up there right now, and he's dealing with that, in addition to Avengers business. In Wakanda itself, people are looking towards Shuri to lead as the next in line to the throne. And it turns out that a Wakandan council is taking that quite seriously, and they have requested that she take up the mantle of Black Panther. And this is a Shuri that's much closer to the movie version that casual readers are more familiar with.
Yeah, they're trying to capture that crowd.
I can't
Definitely.
I can't blame them for doing it, only because the comic book version of Shuri was not exactly treated well in general. Maybe a bit more casually known version would have a better foothold. I don't really know how else to say it. Fanboys did not treat the character well in her first appearances.
Fanboys are very, very opposed to change, as we all know.
Yeah,
Sadly.
Well, back during the first podcast we were doing, we found a study that a psychiatrist did that found that fanboys get angry at change because they see it as a... actually, they just get angry at changes because they get used to a certain pattern, and when you deviate from that pattern, they have this minor backlash, and that's where you see the posts that are all over social media, you're raping my childhood, which is always such a childish response to change.
It is.
You never heard that back when Marvel decided to update Blade.
Didn't hear that when
from...
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I mean, back when Blade first started, it was all green jackets, stupid orange glasses, and wooden weapons. Everything. And Wesley Snipes shows up and gets on the leather, and suddenly all the vampires are allergic to silver, making his weapons that much cooler. And then that image of Blade gets put in Marvel.
Yeah, because that image of Blade looks awesome. The other thing looks gaudy as hell.
I know.
Well, there is technically a number of things that changed, but somewhere in the last 15 years, people became very whiny about the level of change. I mean, I remember in the 90s when Johnny Blaze was replaced by Danny Ketch as the Ghost Rider, and that, as far as occult comic books in Marvel, that was the most awesome thing ever.
Danny Ketch's best Ghost Rider.
And that may be controversial to some people, but when people think about the image of the Ghost Rider, they don't know that they're thinking about Danny Ketch. Johnny Blaze's version had that bizarre stunt cycle suit that most people just don't recall.
Yeah, he had that blue suit with the that square box outline on his chest.
Mm-hmm.
He did nothing with Hellfire on chains. He did not wear a leather jacket. It didn't do any of that shit.
Yeah.
The cool Ghost Rider is Danny Ketch.
And then again, the majority of fanboys aren't even aware that neither Ketch nor Blaze are the first Ghost Rider.
You talk about AKA Knight Rider?
Yep. I think he became the Phantom Rider after they introduced Johnny Blaze.
Because I remember there was oh god, I actually read Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider when I was a kid. That was actually how I was introduced to comics.
Yeah.
And I remember there was issue 50 was Ghost Rider and Knight Rider, which of course is the cowboy dressed up in all white. It's got the face mask and the white horse.
Yeah, that's the Phantom Rider. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought they called him Knight Rider back then, but I could have been wrong.
They may have. We were firmly entrenched in the Hasselhoff days, man. It could firmly well be.
Oh god, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
But moving on before we get stuck into a tangent on fanboys and their impotent rage. Daredevil 609 came out this past week. This is the beginning of the Death of Daredevil story arc by Charles Soule.
Mm-hmm.
And it does appear that Matt Murdock is setting himself up for a death with a major red flag in the middle of this issue.
What's that? I didn't get a chance to read it.
Well, they are looking for information to take down Wilson Fisk, who's currently the mayor of New York, the Kingpin.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And Matt Murdock has his own team of individuals that's been helping him out. 2 Inhumans, Reader and Frank McGee, and a mutant, Doug Ramsey.
Oh, hey, there's Doug.
Yeah. And
Doug Ramsey sounds familiar.
Cypher.
That's Cypher from the Mutants.
Yeah, the guy who can understand any language.
So he's got a team of, communications specialists?
Well, not communications. Reader has this bizarre ability where I think once a week, 3 things he reads he can create in reality.
Wow.
He's a manifester.
There's an Inhuman that needs to catch a bullet.
Yeah, Frank McGee is one of the newer ones that was introduced when Marvel tried to reintroduce the Inhumans as a big thing, and I really don't know what he does. But he's a private investigator in his daily life, so he knows what he's doing. Let me see. Murdoch decided that this room full of people trying to take down Fisk needed to trust each other, So from his suit jacket, he produced his Daredevil mask. The people in the room did not know until this moment he is Daredevil. As a matter of fact,
yeah. I think I saw this in Reddit.
yeah,
And it said Matt Murdock is insensitive to blind people.
yeah, that's because Reader can't see. He reads by Braille. So when he's holding up his Daredevil mask, Reader has to lean over to McGee and say, "Did something happen, Frank?" Everyone just went really quiet there.
Matt Murdock is holding up Daredevil's mask. I'm not really sure what he means by this.
Yeah, but that's what I mean by a major red flag. Usually whenever Matt Murdock reveals his identity to anybody, things go poorly.
Yeah. Whatever happened? I thought the Inhumans all went away in the death of Inhumans. Did that just not happen or what?
The royal family went into space with a ship. I don't know if it was a Tillin itself, but there is a large group of Inhumans that are still left behind. Largely newer Inhumans. The ones that a lot of the ones left over, with the exception of Reader and actually Karnak went into space too, are ones that were produced during the Terrigen Mist era. Miss Marvel and such.
Right.
So that's what I know.
So did any of them die except for?
No, but they are getting involved in something rather dangerous because Murdoch's decided that they've been approaching everything like politicians and lawyers. They've been trying to keep everything above board. And they're vigilantes, so they might as well break the law to get something done. They've decided to kidnap Wesley, Fisk's right-hand man.
Oh.
So,
what happened to the Fixer?
I don't know. James Wesley apparently exists for the first time in Marvel Comics. The first time I heard the character name was in the TV show.
Yeah, he had a guy named Felix that was doing his stuff in a TV show, right?
I think that was in the latest season. Wesley was the bookish guy with the glasses in season 1, the one Karen Page put 7 bullets in.
Oh, totally forgot about that.
Yeah. Doctor Strange is about to celebrate 400 issues of his solo book, and no, they're not contiguous. They're based on the numerous volumes that have been released. They're going to celebrate it with a special Joe Quesada variant of Doctor Strange in his classic blue and gold outfit. This is going to be Doctor Strange number 10, written by Mark Waid, and the art inside is going to be by Jesus Saiz. Do you want to see the variant real quick?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Don't often get to see how to do anything.
Yeah, and this is a special event. I mean, Doctor Strange, like I said, he's never really had a comic book that lasts more than about 50 issues because when it comes to superhero books, he is a bit of a niche player, although he's been in Marvel Comics for about as long as the company's existed.
Yeah.
So, there you go. There's the Doctor in his first outfit. That outfit has always been one of the bigger reasons I've never been able to get into Doctor Strange's books. Not because he's a bad character, but he does look like a Vegas stage magician on a really bad acid trip.
Oh, I don't know about... Well, okay, I can get some of that. There is a bit of hoochie going on with his outfit. But it's not too outlandish considering Marvel.
They could have done worse, but I keep staring at those bright yellow gloves with the Kirby spots on them.
And see, that's the thing. I was actually about to bring up those gloves because I was actually pleased in Thor Ragnarok that he was wearing those.
Yeah, they kept grabbing my eye and wouldn't let go. I hated them.
Well, I mean, it's because his hands are injured.
I know. I still hated them.
I was okay with it.
As far as the movie, if they were thinner, I could have let it go, but it looked like he was wearing hockey gloves there, so I was a bit distracted.
They were a little thick, but I mean, they were easily explained because, man, his hands got fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also been announced that Ironheart's new series is going to be delayed a bit.
I saw that.
Yes. The reason is because a second artist has been brought in to help complete issues 1 and 2. Ironheart number 1 is now coming out November 28th, 2 weeks later than its original solicitation. Ironheart number 2 was pushed back 5 weeks to January 16.
Ooh. Well, I'm just glad that she's getting her own stuff and that she's getting her own look. And hopefully, by these actions, she'll have cemented her place in Marvel the way Ms. Marvel has.
We'll have to see. I mean, when she was in the Invincible Iron Man as the star of the book, she laid out very quickly that she doesn't just hammer things like most superheroes. She spends time thinking her way around it.
Well, and I honestly, I've not really read a whole lot about her. When she took over Invincible Iron Man, I kind of checked out. I had to kind of limit my reading list and I was really only interested in Stark, so I kind of skipped over her, but I checked her out when she showed up in Champions.
I would strongly recommend it. She was being helped early on by a Stark AI, and it decided to crash course her training by remote controlling every available Stark armor in the armory and sending it after her at once. And she was freaking out a bit, trying to defend against all these things she's not used to. But while she was distracting the AI, she managed to write a code on the fly to hack and disable all those armors. That's the way she tends to deal with
That's
things.
pretty clever.
You know, she doesn't.
Well, now that
I was going to say she doesn't deal with them heads up. She finds a way to cut everything off with as little collateral damage as she can manage.
Well, the good thing about this is when stuff like this happens, it's usually like what 5, 6 issues, maybe 8 issues. That means they'll throw it into a trade paperback, and I can watch it in one little sit down.
It's probably already out. I mean, she was early in
Yeah.
the Invincible run during 2016 or maybe 2015.
Yeah. Side note on this, you guys see that odd bit of speculation off of the Avengers 4 toy that Pepper Potts is going to wear the rescue armor?
I did. I'm not sold on that theory.
No?
No, the color scheme keeps screaming different things to me.
Yeah, but
seen
did
that.
you see the effects? The effects off the action figure are the exact same ones as Iron Man.
No. I honestly haven't paid that close to attention because internet speculation tends to be about as accurate as winning the lottery.
And there's one thing that kind of gets me is the fact that Rescue is red, mostly red and white, and this figure is purple and white. And I don't know if that's because they want Pepper Potts to stand out in Avengers 4 if indeed she's going to be Rescue. I can understand that they would want a completely different kind of color scheme versus any of the other heroes.
Yeah,
If that's the case.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's a number of reasonable explanations as to this armor that goes beyond Pepper Potts. I mean, there's the fact that Nebula has no place right now other than to fight Thanos with the Avengers. There's also Natasha Romanoff, who may need extra protection since she's way outclassed by what they're going to be dealing with in general. And not to mention, there's still Shuri waiting in the wings, who could create her own copycat armor because she doesn't feel like taking up the mantle of Black Panther at this point.
These are all valid.
Hell, there's even Okoye who's standing in the wings. She wasn't affected by Thanos' snap, too.
But she's not going to wear something like that. That's I don't want to say it, but it's beneath her.
Oh, I was going to say it's not likely, but who knows what, how Tony Stark is in these films. He tends to take actions even if people don't want him to. There's a reason why Ultron exists in their universe.
She wasn't even a big fan of wearing a fucking wig, much less wearing armor.
Yeah, but she still wore armor, just not what people typically think of when it comes to European countries.
Mm-hmm.
We also found out that Amazing Spider-Man number 8, he's going to be dealing with a brand new class of villain that actually harkens back to the X-Men a bit.
Really?
Yeah,
Did I not read this?
Well, it hasn't come out yet. The solicit was or the preview was just recently released on CBR.com, and it does appear that the Thieves Guild is moving into New York. At least a branch of it.
Okay.
He's going to be dealing with a new woman in charge. Her name is Odessa Drake.
Never heard of her, yeah.
She appears to be a brand new character. She's a woman of an unknown ethnicity, although her skin in a club appears to be somewhat dusky. So I couldn't say what her nationality is. The reason why I say it's an X-Men enemy is because people tend to forget that Remy LeBeau, a.k.a. Gambit, was raised by the Thieves Guild in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Well, no Gambit fan's going to forget that.
No, and there's also no guarantee that any of these characters are going to be super powered, but you are talking about a bunch of highly skilled fighters suddenly in New York. That's going to get somebody's attention.
Yeah, and the Assassin's Guild had Cassandra, and she was super powered, so...
Mm-hmm. So, I would say this changes the dynamic a little bit, especially since Wilson Fisk is attempting to stay above board as the mayor. The Black Cat's own gang has been disbanded now. And Norman Osborn has once again shaken things up by having a tantrum as the Red Goblin. So New York's criminal underworld might actually be pretty open for a takeover.
Oh, not to mention that our boy Boomerang got a frickin' pardon.
Yeah,
I thought that was cool. I'm really enjoying Boomerang. It's clear to me that whoever is writing God, if they're not actually the writer from Superior Foes, are clearly a fan of Superior Foes of Spider-Man.
I don't remember who it is. I have to reopen the window now. Because for some reason I want to say it's Charles Soule, but I know he did the video game and he did some other stuff. I'm not sure he's writing Amazing Spider-Man at this point.
But it's
Nick Spencer.
Nick Spencer, that's it. The guy who did The Secret Empire. He keeps talking about how people are mad at him, even though he didn't start that story. He's just the one that picked it up.
But yeah, man, Superior Foes of Spider-Man was such a great read. I enjoyed the hell out of that, and to see that man, whoever was writing Spider-Man, Spencer, clearly was a giant fan of that. So much so that he practically shoehorned Boomerang into Peter's life just so he could tell more of his story.
Well, Peter's life is going to need some big improvement. Remember how we discussed a couple weeks ago that the writers intend for Spider-Geddon to be a Miles Morales-centric event?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was hearing, yeah.
Yeah, we found out why in Spectacular Spider-Man 311. Yeah, 311. Before Spider-Man knew Morlun was back in the Marvel Universe, Morlun attacked him and really went to town on him.
Yeah, he beat the crap out of him.
He beat him bloody and stomped on the dimensional hopping and communication device that he had on his wrist at the time, that J. Jonah Jameson got back for him.
Yeah.
So Peter Parker is down. Not out necessarily, but he's definitely going to be on the mend for the majority of the event, assuming that the writing is tight enough to carry this over. And I'm going to assume they are, since editorial's been setting this up for the last 12 months.
Well, then they're going to have to pull a fast one and have Peter, I don't know, convalescing.
No, what I mean is I believe that editorial means to have him on the shelf for at least 3/4 of the event, given the way that he's been beaten up by Morlun here.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's the tricky thing when you're trying to take a main character out of their own books and they've got multiple books.
Yeah. Also, Spider-Geddon is going to develop at least one new power among the spider totems.
What's that?
We don't know. We do know that on the cover of Spider-Gwen Ghost Spider number 4, it's showing Gwen herself in a rainy graveyard, perched on one of the headstones with a whole bunch of spider totems all over these stones. And it says in the solicit, quote, "In the aftermath of Spider-Geddon, Gwen Stacy has an unusual ability all her own, one that will set her apart from the other spiders for years to come. But with that unique power, there will also come a unique and grave responsibility, one that Gwen will have no choice but to bear alone," unquote. It's going to be written by Shauna Maguire and the arts by Rosie Campy. And I would recommend Shauna Maguire as a writer. She's the one who did the X-Men Black Mystique one-shot.
I really liked that.
Yeah, she's the one who's apparently doing this series. Met her at Comic-Con. Really nice and knowledgeable lady. But I have a little bit of a personal speculation based on this cover and that description.
All right, hit me.
I'm guessing that Gwen's new power means she can either get advice from deceased spider totems or deceased Spider-Men, or possibly she can copy the powers of deceased Spider-Men.
Those are both big possibilities considering the image.
I mean, the image is very evocative, plus there's also the fact that she's recently going to be called the Ghost Spider, which it all seems to draw together something having to do with her having a connection to these characters past death. And they're only guesses. I could be way off there, but I feel like I'm on the right path.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a good idea for Marvel to have distinct powers in all these spider people it's got.
Mm-hmm.
Now they just need to worry about Scarlet Spider and they need to develop Silk a bit more.
Well, I mean, Silk's claim to fame right now is basically her hormonal and organic webbing abilities, but yeah, she needs a little bit more of a spotlight. I think they're waiting to rebound on that character, though, because they tried to push her really hard, and she took with fans who treat her with a cult status, but she didn't really take with the entirety of the fan base.
No. But they didn't really cross-pollinate her too much. By that, I mean they didn't really use her in guest appearances with other books.
No, you're right. She existed in her own little vacuum in the Marvel Universe. Somehow she managed to avoid just about every other superhero and group out there.
And she would have been great in Champions. I mean, as a headliner in Champions.
She's a bit older than they are. She's in the same age range as Peter Parker. They went to high school together.
Oh, I keep forgetting that. Just the way they draw her makes her look so young.
I know. Now, if you told me that she was going to be involved in one of the other tertiary characters, or if she got involved with the Defenders, totally buy that. I would.
Yeah.
I sent you guys the image in Skype just in case you wanted to take a peek at it.
That's a really cool picture.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I actually really like this picture. I'm gonna totally steal it and post it later.
just as long as you mention what the guess is. Um,
Uh,
Also, in
yeah.
something that we talked about last week, writer Chuck Wendig, Marvel removed him from the Shadow of Vader miniseries they were working on.
Yeah.
Now Marvel has also removed Shadow of Vader from their upcoming lineup.
So are they canceling it, or are they just delaying it?
They've removed the solicitations and the sales to stores and vendors. I don't think they're going to ditch the idea, because the idea is one of those things that would make money just because it has the word Star Wars and Vader in the title. Fanboys would buy that up without end. I believe they're probably putting it on a long-term hold that they can't. They don't know when they're going to bring it back, simply because they have to hire another writer and get them involved.
Oh God, they really should just, I know it's not going to happen, but I'm going to voice my opinion about it anyway. They should tuck their tail between their legs and ask for Chuck back.
That's all personal preference. I understand what both parties did and why they did it. I prefer not to get involved in that stuff. I don't mind knowing when somebody's hired and fired, but when it comes to the down and dirty and, why people make decisions, there's so many reasons it's kind of hard to bring them up in simple conversation. The Uncanny X-Men weekly relaunch is coming faster and faster. Remember, this series is going to be relaunched in November. And I don't quite know what to say. One of the writers of this is Kelly Thompson. I have a big confidence in their work. And in a recent interview with Newsarama, she said, quote, "Well, it's Uncanny X-Men, so you gotta go big. Big Uncanny X-Men relaunch is not a quiet story. So fans can expect a lot of classic players on the board. A lot of high-stakes plot, a lot of punching, a lot of complex moral dilemmas as the X-Men are known for, and of course, dinosaurs," unquote.
Rando.
I would say it's random, except I'd swear the X-Men have like a summer condo in the Savage Land. They tend to go there more often than any other group of characters.
Yeah.
Another thing I can say for sure was a preview on comicbook.com showed that the students of the Uncanny X-Men, like Armor and Glob Herman, they're going to encounter a new version of the Mutant Liberation Front.
Does this have anything to do with that image that we saw of them kind of using advanced versions of their powers?
I don't know. The version I saw had 0 dialogue attached to it. It appeared to be black and white art pages, but it definitely showed some long-standing Mutant Liberation Front characters like Wildside and Dragonus.
Yeah.
I didn't see
Wildside.
Reaper or I think his name was Forearm or Strongarm. I don't remember. But the MLF was introduced way back in, I want to say, 1992 by Rob Liefeld in the waning issues of the New Mutants.
God, I can't believe they're even trying to keep Wildside alive. There's a copyright that you really should just let die.
Are you kidding? I thought Reaper was worse than he was.
Oh, they actually used Reaper in their old Malibu imprint Exiles.
Yeah, that didn't last long either.
No, it didn't.
Last up in Marvel comic news, John Byrne, the longtime artist on Uncanny X-Men and a number of different series from Marvel and DC. He is talking a bit more about a potential return to the X-Men, and I don't mean the fact that there's any deal-making. He just decided to explain to Sci-Fi Wire why all this chatter is happening all of a sudden. And he explained again that he's been working on his own personal project he calls X-Men Elsewhen. It would pick up right after the Dark Phoenix saga and tell the story his way as to what he would write and where it would go. And
yeah. It really all started in his own personal fanboy forums that I am in no way subscribed to.
Yeah, he said, quote, "Somebody asked me on my forum whether there was any chance that I would go back to Marvel. And I got to thinking about it. Can I go back to Marvel? Can I even still do that? Can I pencil for someone else to ink? I thought. Let's pretend it would be kind of an Elseworld where Phoenix didn't die," unquote.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
at least he's actually contemplating it. It's not like he just said, "Hell no." It's still surprising that he's even entertaining it after all this time, though. His grudge ran so deep. And he doesn't... Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just he's one of my top favorites, and I would love for him to come back.
Yeah, and he barely does big company work, or he barely does independent work at this stage. and he almost never appears at comic book conventions.
Yeah, I know. I've been trying to get to him at a comic book convention so he can sign my Iron Fist 14.
Well, good luck with that, because I've only heard of one
Yeah.
appearance in the past decade by the man.
Yeah, same here. I've only heard the one appearance, and sadly, it was nearby, but I did not get a chance to plan ahead.
Yeah, and that appearance was almost as highly regulated as like a J-rock band or a J-pop band hand signing event.
Yeah, it really
Handshaking
was.
event. Sorry. Now we have DC comic news. We're going to talk about the intellectual properties owned by Warner Brothers and what they're bringing to comic books now and in the near future. We're still going through the event of Heroes in Crisis in DC, the one where the, I guess you could say, therapy facility brought up or built by the Trinity has had a mass murder, apparently by one of the patients. And issue 2 has not come out yet, unless I missed something. Anybody else?
No, I didn't pick up an issue 2.
Okay. I only read issue 1. I haven't seen 2 come out yet. The only reason why I bring it up is because apparently issue number 5 has the potential to change the DCU forever. And I always take announcements like that with a grain of salt because, new X-Men changed the X-Men forever until they felt like it didn't.
Yeah.
Morrison and his work. It's still being written by Tom King, the art is by Clay Mann. And the solicit for number 5 reads, quote, "The secrets of the DC universe are hacked. Sanctuary wasn't supposed to keep records, but now that the AI is compromised, superhero secrets are leaking all over the net. Booster and Harley set aside their differences to focus on who they believe is the real killer, assuming one of them isn't lying, that is. Meanwhile, Batman and the Flash continue to investigate the mysterious murder. The answer can be found in Sanctuary, but is it safe to go digging in the crime scene?" Unquote.
Wow, how long is this series going to be? Because it sounds like that sounds like the kind of startup, right? Not a 5th issue startup, write-up.
It was originally solicited for 7 issues, and it was extended to 9. Issue number 5 isn't slated to come out until January 30th of 2019. So I don't know. I remember when they announced just before this event came out that they extended it 2 issues because apparently King wrote that much story. I'm guessing they decided that 7, supersized issues might be a bit too hard for people to swallow if they're not into the first couple.
I do like me some Booster Gold. I actually might have to start tracking this.
The first issue was incredible. I'm not a general DC reader, but when I read that, it really blew me away. It was very close to being my pick of that week.
Really?
Oh, yeah. The art by Clay Mann is even better. There is a single panel of Harley Quinn holding up a knife, mentioning that she feels a bit scathed, and she looks unhinged. Like, you can see the madness bubbling in her eyes.
Well, Harley does have a history of mental illness.
Yes, but think about it this way. Right now, she blames Booster for the potential murder of everybody inside, and this was the one place where she felt like she could talk about her actual problems.
Yeah.
She was losing her crap to the point where when she tracked him down at a diner, instead of attacking him right away, she ordered the pie because, as she put it, I hate pudding. Nobody knows that, but I actually hate it.
Who hates pudding?
Anybody that thinks about Bill Cosby hawking Jello?
Man, pudding pops were so good.
Also, in the solicits this past week, it was announced as to the name of the sidekick to the Batman Who Laughs. Remember, he's getting his own miniseries in the 616 now that not the 616, Earth Zero, now that he's stuck there.
Oh, that's right.
He has a sidekick that's carrying more guns than the Punisher.
Shit.
Ridiculous.
He does. It's a Batman that apparently is wearing a long, dark trench coat. He appears to have a black suit with a white symbol. And I remember everybody joking, wow, this looks like the Batman Punisher. According to Scott Snyder, one of the writers at DC, he was talking to the crowd at Comic-Con International, and he said, quote, "This is like Punisher Batman, but it's also Bruce Wayne, which makes him terrifying. He's rich. He has access to everything. He's the deadliest Dark Knight ever, and he's coming to the DC Universe as a henchman of the Batman Who Laughs," unquote. Well, the solicit for Batman Who Laughs number 2, written by Scott Snyder, says, quote, "After the shocking ending of issue number 1, a ticking clock sets Batman on a trail throughout the different realities of the multiverse. He starts to see all the iterations of his life and what could have been. But more importantly, Bruce Wayne begins to deduce that his current life is somehow wrong, and that the mistakes he's made are somehow connected. Meanwhile, the Batman Who Laughs raises the curtain on his second act, pulling out the big guns to break into Arkham Asylum. Enter one of the most punishing Batman of the dark multiverse, the Grim Knight, unquote.
I don't know if that's really gonna make me run out and go grab a Batman comic, but I'm curious.
I'm with you. I am into curiosity, but I feel like they could have done better than the Grim Knight.
Yeah.
Honestly, there could be much worse that they could have picked.
There is, but there's
much
also
worse.
probably much better that they could have picked. Also, to add in the solicit that he's one of the most punishing Batmen, dude.
Yeah,
that was
too on the
groan-worthy.
nose. That was too on the
groan-worthy.
nose.
I did find it interesting, though, that they've created this storyline now that apparently undoes some of the mistakes that Batman made in Dark Knight's Metal, which he made plenty of. Now they're trying to say he had some kind of outside influence that affected him and made these mistakes?
They're pulling a parallax.
Yep. Yes, they are. The art and the cover are done by a man named Jacques. I'm guessing his name is Jacques. It's spelled Jock. I'm going to guess he didn't choose Jock as a pen name. The Flash writer Joshua Williamson has also shared the secret origin of his run on the Speed Force. And I mean that quite literally. Williamson was talking about how he pitched his version of the Flash. He was with CBR.com at New York Comic Con, and according to him, he said, quote, "I pitched it twice." Apparently, Dan Didio liked his second pitch, and then he went on to talk about it with Jeff Johns. It's a 12-issue Williamson run that was trimmed to 8, and the tale became the first storyline in his Rebirth run that kicked off in 2016. He said, quote, "At no time did I think I'd be writing this long, but once we started going, I was like, I never want to leave this. I love it so much. I love these characters. I don't want to go anywhere," unquote. So apparently he created his own love of the characters after his initial story. And at 2016, wouldn't have he been responsible for creating Godspeed?
I think Godspeed was actually an older character than that.
I thought he was pretty recent.
I thought Godspeed's been around for like a decade.
Has he? I could have sworn he was created like in this decade.
I want to say that when he was brought up during the whole Flash War, he actually had been around for quite some time. I'm actually looking him up right now.
Yeah, so am I.
Let's see, Godspeed. First appearance. You are correct.
Wow.
2016.
Okay.
I guess he just feels like an old character.
Oh, Godspeed's a term we use for as good luck.
Well, yeah, but I think it's a bit of both, because I think the character of Godspeed didn't come up until Williamson's run. However, he was created out of a longtime friend of Barry Allen who may have appeared in comics longer than that, August Hart.
Yeah. Joshua Williamson and Carmine G. D. Something crazy.
Yeah, that was the artist who was eventually attached to his second pitch.
They are the ones that created him.
Okay. Well, yeah. Apparently the first pitch didn't work, so he went back and tried again. See, that teaches you persistence can work.
I suppose.
Do you remember our read of the No Surrender event? We were kind of underwhelmed by what occurred there.
Oh, God, yes.
The one with the Omega Titans that were kind of ill-defined throughout that miniseries. The reason why I bring it up is because James Tynion IV and Scott Snyder and artist Danielle Sampere and Juan Albarin are going to be working with the Omega Titans again in January's Justice League Annual #1. If you remember, that miniseries event, No Justice, ended with 3 of the Omega Titans eating the 4th one. Through a very strange process. It's kind of hard to describe.
The DC Celestials.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. The reason why I bring it up is because apparently in this Justice League Annual, the Omega Titans are being brought back, and there will be a brand new Omega Titan replacing the 4th, and then they're doing their thing again.
So there was Entropy, Wisdom, Mystery, and Wonder. Who got axed?
It was Entropy.
Okay.
This Justice League Annual will also feature a guest appearance by Kyle Rayner, Miss Martian, and Steel from the Titans.
Interesting selection. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why, but apparently the Justice League has to create a new Entropy Titan, probably to keep things balanced in some way.
I suppose.
So I can't say I'm going to pick this one up because the introduction of the Omega Titans, I almost forgot their name, was just kind of generally underwhelming, and then it seemed like they were just done with it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna touch this.
Especially, go ahead.
This can go burn somewhere.
Yeah.
God. I used to be someone who read Marvel and DC with equal amounts of time. I would spend. I got my, I had my Secret Six and Birds of Prey, and then I go to my X-Men and the Avengers. But damn, I haven't really been touching a DC book in a couple of years now.
Yeah.
I don't know if that speaks to their quality or just the storylines have just been seriously underwhelming. But
I can't speak to your personal reasons. I know I've always had a problem with DC characters because they're very hard to relate to. They are either damn near psychotic, like Batman and Harley Quinn, or they're so vastly overpowered it almost seems unfair to call them the heroes of their universe.
I think what it really comes down to is that the continuity is just so vastly damaged that I can't rely on it. And continuity is a big deal for me as a comic book reader, especially a comic book reader that's been reading it for decades. I want to be able to say, oh, I remember that from 20 years ago when I read it. That makes sense in this particular point. But DC's continuity is such a just awful train wreck. It's like I can't trust it. That term when you're reading a book and then you find out that the narration of the book has been completely false. What's that term called again? It's an unreliable narrator.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, I was just going to say bullshit, but whatever.
DC has felt like an unreliable narrator to me for the past couple of years, and it's affected my dollars because I don't buy DC books that much, if at all.
That's your preference, but I find it interesting that you brought up continuity since one series is losing continuity.
Ah, God, which one is it this time?
Suicide Squad is coming to an end.
I'm okay with that, only because Deadshot belongs in a Secret Six title.
Well, it's being ended with an upcoming issue number 50 in January with a double-sized anniversary issue. It was one of the inaugural titles when the Rebirth era started, complete with some covers and a little bit of interior art by co-publisher Jim Lee. It's very unlikely, though, that most of the characters in it are coming to an end, especially since half of the characters are Batman villains and allies. Including Killer Croc, Captain Boomerang, Katana, and Harley Quinn. Deadshot and Captain Flag, I don't know what they intend to do with it, nor do I know what they intend to do with the Enchantress or Amanda Waller. There's not even a guarantee that Task Force X is technically going to end with the series.
It probably won't. They're just going to end the comic and then reboot it with a different team. Hopefully one without Deadshot.
It does seem like half the members of the Suicide Squad currently have kind of outgrown the book.
Yeah, like Harley Quinn.
And Katana, too. She's supposed to be involved in this new Outsider series, I think.
Yeah, she belongs as an outsider. She has no business with frickin' Suicide Squad, sorry.
Yeah. And we've had a little bit of fanboy rage, as we were talking about earlier, although it's not about a big deal, in my opinion. I take it you've heard about the internet controversy regarding recent changes to Nightwing?
Yeah. They've called attention to it so much that it's just not even worth it to do it.
I know. Jesse, I take it you're not aware of what we're talking about.
Has it anything to do with the fact that he got blasted in the head?
It does. But the thing that's bothering people isn't the fact that he was shot in the head. What's bothering people is that now that he's trying to live his life, he's no longer telling people that he goes by Dick Grayson. He's calling himself Rick Grayson.
This is the equivalent of trying to take the pants off of Superman. No one really pays attention to it because it's just one of those things that's grandfathered into your brain, and you accept it, even though if you were to see it for the first time, you're like, what the fuck is that all about?
I never considered it a big deal because I haven't even read the issue they're talking about, but after reading Nightwing 50 and all the changes to the character as a result of his shooting and him trying to make new decisions, I understand why he changed his name. He's trying to leave his old life behind.
I don't think it has anything to do with it. I think it has everything to do with the fact that no one cuts their name from Richard to Dick anymore. And, the writers are somehow trying to erase this quote-unquote embarrassment The same way they tried to get rid of Superman's trunks.
Yeah.
Same way they try to get rid of Batman's trunks.
See, I don't think that DC's editorial ever intended this to be a permanent change. I think this is an example of him moving away from superheroing until he's ready to come back.
I think it is, actually. I think that somebody is trying to get away from this particular nickname because it's dated. No one does it anymore. But, I mean, we as comic book fans, we grew up on Dick. We know who Dick is. We know that Dick is Richard, and Richard Grayson's a bad motherfucker.
Yeah, I don't know. People still some people still go by Dick in the real world. I mean, there's Dick Army after all.
Yeah, I get that, but it's not common anymore. Not like it used to be like in, I don't know, the 60s.
Yeah, I doubt this is a permanent change.
Yeah.
It probably will not be. Simply like you said at the very beginning, people hate change, even if it's to modernize something, and that's the way a lot of people are going to view this. We don't need a modernized Dick.
Well, we have,
we
do have a modernized Nightwing, and I say that not because Grayson has decided to change the way he does things. He has walked away from the superhero life. He's made the decision to do so. The thing is, though, Nightwing is going through a nightfall.
Are you referring to when Batman got his back broke?
Yes, and I don't mean the severe injuries keeping him out of superheroing. What I mean is, there's another Nightwing.
Oh,
someone else
I didn't know that.
Yeah, someone else has realized that there is a gap in the superhero community, and he's looking to fill that gap. But this is a Nightwing who's dressing in a costume very similar to Grayson's, except he's packing ordnance.
So, could this be our friend, second Robin?
Jason Todd?
No, he's got his own outfit, doesn't he?
Yeah, Todd is still going as the Red Hood.
Yeah.
He has his own series right now, Red Hood the Outlaw.
Yeah, he's all dressed up in... Yeah, he's actually sporting a crowbar now.
Yeah.
That's kind of on the nose.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not using guns anymore. He's using a crowbar and something else.
But,
well, I knew
more Casey Jones.
Oh, it was a short sword. He had a short sword, too.
Yeah, I knew that was happening, but that's my knee-jerk reaction to somebody stepping into Nightwing's gig with any kind of weaponry.
I can think of several others that could be doing that, but
you could go with Roy Harper, but he's apparently got a bullet in him or whatever, a stab.
Okay,
whatever killed him.
Well, he was killed in Heroes in Crisis, but getting back on track here, it turns out that this new Nightwing is a policeman, a Detective Sapienza.
Oh, okay, so we already know who he is.
Yeah, but he's basically eliminating crime instead of stopping it.
Oh, we're getting that storyline again?
Well, that's what Nightfall is.
That's exactly what Nightfall was.
Remember, that's when Azrael took over as Batman. He was breaking people. He wasn't stopping them.
And then, Batman had to recover and go and take Azrael down, which is obviously what's going to have to happen here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nightfall wasn't the backbreaking. Nightfall was deposing the false one. There's also an unpublished Superman story by Marv Wolfman that's coming out in January.
God, Marv Wolfman's got to be getting up in the age.
Oh, he is.
Wow.
I've met him. He's a nice guy, but he's looking a little frail these days. But
He's 72. Every time I see Marv Wolfman's name, I always think of Wolfman Jack. So I always get this picture of this guy with a big black bushy beard and just kind of a crazed look. But now I'm looking at him. He looks like Paul from Late Night with David Letterman.
Yeah. Well, Wolfman is the writer of Crisis on Infinite Earth, so he is well deserved of the title Living Legend.
Yeah.
And he is adding, or an unpublished story of his of Superman is being added to the Superman 100-page Super Spectacular. It's probably something DC decided to put together after the 100-page Giants and Walmart did well. The thing is, though, Wolfman's story, he wrote this back in 2006. He said, quote, "Back in 2006, I wanted to write the story in a style that was very different from what readers expected from me. I also wanted to come up with several brand new Superman ideas in each issue that we'd never seen before. When I was finished writing Chapter 1, I knew, maybe believed, that I had succeeded. Maybe beyond what I was hoping for. And though I may be deluding myself, I truly think the story kept getting better and better," unquote. At the time of the story, DC decided to pass, or at the time of the writing, I should say, DC decided to pass on the story, but now they're picking it back up after all these years, and they're going to publish it.
Yeah. I love me some Marv Wolfman, don't get me wrong. Guy made Blade. Guy made the Teen Titans.
He also did Raven, Daughter of Darkness.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Which we just reviewed.
Mm-hmm.
But Superman story, yeah, I'm not really looking for that.
Well, there is another Superman story, although this one was not one I was expecting. Superman has returned to the DC Universe, apparently, in Sideways.
Are you talking about the Superman 52?
Yes. The new 52 Superman has reappeared from a green cocoon in the most recent issue of Sideways.
So do we have multiple Supermen one more time?
We apparently do, and the wording in the dialogue was kind of circumspect here, because, of course Sideways doesn't know entirely what he's looking at. This Superman that popped out has a short cape, a t-shirt, and jeans. But this Superman, when he came out, said, quote, "That's right, I'm back, and no one's ever putting me away again," unquote.
Well, how do we deal with that?
I do not know. Last time we dealt with it, the two Supermen touched fingers and turned into one Superman.
Yeah, that did happen. Whatever became of the Superwoman Lois Lane?
She merged with the DC Prime counterpart and became Mother Lois. In other words, the pre-crisis one became the dominant one.
Whatever became of Superwoman? Is that book still going on?
No, that ended after 12 issues. Lana Lang lost her powers, but she survived.
Oh, well, that's stupid.
I was kind of disappointed because when they started that book, they started out with the new 52 Lois gaining powers, and she died by the end of the first issue. I thought there was a rub coming. I thought this was a sales tactic. I didn't really expect that to be the end. I was pleasantly surprised they stuck with that.
It did stick with that, but I guess they could afford to because, they were going to simplify it and put it as a different character anyway.
I'm sure they intended to leave her dead. I don't think the whole merging of essences was the idea they were going with initially. I think it's what editorial decided on later for some reason. But I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Last up in DC comic news, the writer of Green Arrow is taking a break from comics after they were very quickly removed from Green Arrow.
Yeah, what was going on with that? That seemed like there was something suspect about that.
I'm not entirely sure. It was being written by a pair of sisters, Shauna and Julie Benson. They're a sister duo, and in the July 2019 solicitations, a new writing team was announced taking over the book. Julie Benson posted about it on social media. She said, quote, "As some of you have seen in the January 2019 comic solicitations, Shauna Benson and I are no longer writing a title for DC Comics. We're sad to see our run on Green Arrow come to an end, but are honored to have had the opportunity to write for this amazing legacy character," unquote. They started writing Green Arrow with August number 43, and now it's coming to an end with December's number 47. And I'm superbly curious because I rarely hear about a run of comics by any creator that lasts less than 6 months.
Yeah, well,
They said, Julie went on to say, quote, "We had many more stories about Green Arrow, Black Canary, and Kate Spencer we were hoping to tell, but DC decided we were not the right fit for the book and informed us that they were going in another creative direction," unquote.
That's kind of rough.
More than a bit. I mean, Green Arrow hasn't exactly been leading the sales, but from everything I've heard, they have been, rather steadily staying pretty high as far as reviewables. I haven't heard anything bad about the recent run of Green Arrow.
I hadn't either. But then again, I hadn't heard anything at all.
The character, in my opinion, was doing better than it had been. I'm kind of surprised they haven't tried pushing the book more. I read some of the more recent issues by Margaret Scott, and I tell you what, I've never been more surprised by that book than those issues. She wrote a story where Green Arrow was going in to quell a riot by Parasite in a prison, like a max security prison.
Yeah.
And then Parasite was basically begging Green Arrow not to just put him back in jail, not because he didn't think he deserved it, but it was a combination of things. It's because, one, Parasite is very sorry for what he's become. People tend to forget that he was more or less an accident of chemicals than he was willingly trying to be a super villain. And on top of which, the current warden he was underneath was terribly abusing him. They basically stuck him in a dark cell that has no windows, underground, barely feeding him enough to keep him alive. So I started to read that book, and it really occurred to me, yeah, what do you do with a lot of these weird specialized villains that are just accidents of science, not, acts of actual aggression or acts of malice?
Yeah. Well, in typical comics fashion, they often get super angry at the world around them, or they become super insane.
Yeah, and Scott was trying to actually ask these questions, and I really appreciated that she put that much thought into the writing.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of anybody that puts character development in a villain instead of just saying, "Oh well, he's super pissed at the lab that made him."
You know, he's
Or
big and
he's
purple.
super pissed at the
Evil.
hero. Yeah, the villain is doing the blame game, and that I'm supposed to buy that.
Yeah.
I could have bought that with the first maybe 10, 12 Spider-Man villains, but then after that, I just need something more.
Yeah, well, this does make me want to check out some of the bench issues of Green Arrow and see where it's been. I know there's only 2 or 3 out, but now I'm curious to see what they've done that DC decided they needed to go a different way.
No, I was just I having a moment to actually think back because I was buying Superwoman for a while,
Mhm.
but then I cut it out of my list because like I said I was trying to trim down my stuff, and I think I stopped like at around issue 15. I'm disappointed that they didn't go somewhere with it.
It's if we can get off on a tangent here before we get to the last news story, I do think it's a large problem that DC has in that they really fail to push any of their female heroes with any kind of consistency. I know we can point to the recent fact that Wonder Woman is now leading Justice League Dark, but that's my problem. She's leading Justice League Dark. It's not like she or her series have really been brought to the forefront of any DC events or large stories. You've got Supergirl, who's one of the probably 3 most powerful beings that they've got in their pantheon of heroes, yet she gets no spotlights whatsoever. You have a number of female Green Lanterns whose biggest claim to fame is they haven't died. DC just has a real problem trying to get any of their female characters to have any sort of lead in their stories.
The last time Supergirl was even interesting was the brief stint that she had as a Red Lantern.
Mm-hmm. And
after that, I mean, she might as well not even have a book.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything from her.
Right, and I'm not going to say that Marvel's been great at that either, but at least they've put some more work into some of their characters. Domino has an outstanding series now. Jean Grey has been leading her own X-Men team and appears to be poised to take over the entirety of the X-Men with a new series.
And the Young Jean Grey series was outstanding.
Yes, it was. As well as Rogue leading her own team of Avengers for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
They are at least attempting to put their female characters in the lead, and even characters that haven't had the best of sales, they're trying again. I mean, Black Widow's getting another series.
Yeah, but DC, it feels like they're just, okay, we've got these heroes, we're just going to tell some self-contained stories until readership goes to pot, and then we're just going to cancel it, and then going to ignore it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, who honestly is really going to bring up that Lana Lang was Superwoman for a couple of years?
Yeah,
I
don't.
probably never hear from it again.
I don't know, but DC also has a general problem elevating any character that isn't a member of their Trinity. I was impressed when they had the Blackest Night in an event that actually revolved around Green Lantern fixing things for once.
Yeah, Blackest Night is probably the single best Green Lantern story I've ever read. I got all the crossovers in hardback, and they still totally take over an entire shelf. Here in my house.
Yeah, Blackest Night I lost interest in halfway through only because I was getting tired of the number of ring bearers, but I would say actually Sinestro War is my favorite story.
Sinestro War was a good warm-up to the big game, and the big game was Blackest Night.
But it still has Van Sciver attached to it, so I have mixed feelings now.
I have mixed feelings as well, but I've had a lot of people talk to me about the concept of removing the art from the artist, and while I don't know if that is virtuous, I really don't. That's something that I need like a philosophy major to sit down and talk to me. Is it really acceptable to appreciate the art at the expense of ignoring the artist? Because, damn.
I think it's possible, but the artist has to show me a level of contrition. Because I went through something similar with Rat Queens when I found out that the original artist, Rock Upchurch, was arrested for domestic violence.
Mm-hmm.
I had serious trouble getting into the book after I found that out. But then I found out that Upchurch actually issued some public apologies for his own personal conduct, even after he was fired.
Right. But by doing that, though, you are saying that, well, the artist as a person needs to be a better person than he is for me to appreciate the art.
Mm-hmm.
But is there a moral excuse? Is there a moral acceptability for appreciating art at the expense of ignoring the artist?
Um, I would say not, because I would still have trouble buying anything that Hitler painted.
Yes. See,
Um,
that is a bit of an extreme example, but you get what I'm trying to say.
No, I'm just trying to lay it out plainly, because I understand
Yeah.
that most of his period where he did artwork was before he turned into a fascist and, had some really bizarre worldviews. But at the same time, even though he was in a better place when he painted those, I still wouldn't buy them because they would be connected to a horrendous individual.
True, but I mean, aesthetically speaking, I look at Van Cyber's stuff. I'm like, damn, that really speaks to everything I like about comic book art. I really enjoy looking at this. I want to see more of it. Can't stand the guy that's doing it.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't get that far. I thought about owning Sinestro War because I thought it was solidly written after I found out what kind of person Van Cyber is, but unfortunately,
Yeah.
every time I look at his art, I think about the man.
Thankfully I don't. And that's the thing. I do need to sit down like a philosophy major. I mean, is it moral for me to have this stance or is it immoral?
Yeah.
But anyway, we're going off on a tangent too far.
Okay. The only other story I have is one story in general comic and convention news. This is where we usually talk about conventions all around the world as well as comic books that are not Marvel or DC related. I don't have any convention news right now, even though I'm gearing up to get into Los Angeles Comic Con this coming Friday. There is one follow-up story about Neon Future. It's a new series that's being written and I think co-produced by a DJ named Steve Aoki. He made a recent appearance at New York Comic Con to help promote the book. And basically, instead of making technology the root cause of whatever's going on in this dystopia, it's the human application towards technology that's threatening the world. This is where the spin is. Aoki's trying to present a world where the morality isn't. People tend to, when they write these dystopia books, they tend to write that it's one piece of technology that ruined the world. He's trying to write it from the standpoint of the tech isn't the problem, it's what we're doing with it.
Okay.
He said, quote, "I'm definitely far leaning past Mark Zuckerberg. I want to embrace AI to its fullest potential and feel like we could use it to eventually become cyborgs. That's how we will eventually become part of the cloud. I've been obsessed with the convergence of technology and our humanity in a way where it's positive, where we live in this utopian future. I agree with Ray Kurzweil in that every technological development and every moment it happens, we find our own safeguards. I don't think we'll allow ourselves to be taken over by AI." Unquote. He has a very positive view of technology.
Well, I mean, all too often we've run into writers and such that have a very dystopian view towards advanced technology.
I wonder if that has to do with the argument of people just not accepting change.
I think that we are bringing that full circle in this podcast.
I don't mean for it to be a theme, but it tends to be a big part of what goes on.
Yes, we're gonna take credit for bringing it full circle here today. Yep, that's totally what we plan to do here.
He finished up by saying, quote, "It's part of where we were meant to be, and I don't really see it as a negative or as a downfall. In most sci-fi comic book stories, technology is the problem. It is taken away or it's the evil machine. The story we tell in Neon Future is something different," unquote.
All right.
The more I hear about this, the more I would like to read this story and see what his take on things are.
Maybe. Perhaps.
He collaborated with an Eisner Award winner, Jim Kruger, Tom Bailio, and artist Jeremy Rappick and Neil Edwards. Neon Future is supposed to be a dystopian world where humans have outlawed all advanced technology in an effort to reclaim jobs eliminated by automation. There's a result where this future has an economic class divide that's gotten worse, with humans implanted with technology called augments are persecuted by those who aren't, who call themselves authentics.
Very Shadowrun.
I like the concept, though.
Yeah, I think I heard something like that even in the RPG riffs. The argument between all naturals and full conversions.
Mm-hmm.
Deus Ex Machina says the same as another thing that says the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, this sounds like the kind of story I need to follow. I need to figure out when that's coming out so I can pick up a few issues of it.
Sounds like a really solid sci-fi story.
Yeah, but it does sound like one where you got to keep your brain pan fully open and drink in what's going on and think about it in terms of morality as well as everything else. The subject of this week is The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. The first 5 issues are contained in Book 1. This is a retelling of the witch that originally appeared in Archie comics, except in this case she's much more isolated, and this has to do more with a cult than it has to do with 60s kitsch and family dynamics. Do I have that correct? Because, man, there is a lot going on here.
There's a lot to unpack here, yes, but
Okay.
you pretty much nailed it.
All right. The story is by Roberto Aguirre Sacasa. The art is by Robert Hack. The lettering is by Jack Morelli. The publisher is John Goldwater. And yeah, this has a very limited amount of friendliness in it, if at all. I mean, I want to start by saying that the art was somewhat engaging, although for me is a little bit problematic. It feels like somebody was going for a throwback version of comic book art, something harkening back to the 60s and 70s, but not quite nailing it down.
It seems to me like it was it's a mixture of a retro style mixed in with horror art, like you'd see in Creepy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is a little bit of like classic creep show I can see in here.
Yeah.
It's not bad or anything. I just wish it wasn't so mired in itself. I kind of got sick of the tan and amber color palette that ran through this book.
Yeah, the backgrounds, they did have a pretty consistent aged non-white background for everything, and sometimes Sabrina's face got a little lost in the art. Sometimes you really had to squint. It's like, what kind of expression is she really giving here?
A lot of the facial details do get kind of lost when they're put further back.
Yeah,
But
the art on the faces, you're right, is very plain. The only details you generally get are like eyes, mouth, and nostrils. Not really a nose, just nostrils, and occasionally lines for cheekbones.
yeah, unless of course they were doing something completely fucked up, like Madam Satan's real face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm flipping through the first 20 pages, and there's so much amber in here. Some of the panels bleed together.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's an aesthetic. I mean, they did not fail in what they wanted to do artistically here.
No, I don't believe they did either.
Yeah.
This kind of art side didn't really jive well with me.
Yeah, and
It's a shocking departure from our typical superhero art.
And-
So yeah.
I will also say, after reading the 5 issues contained in this book, this is a very slow read.
God.
You know,
Yeah.
I actually went back and started counting pages to see how many were in here, and it's a standard 22-page comic book, you know, once you take out the ads, but somehow this seems to read about 3 times as fast, and I don't know if it's the story itself. I think part of that is because this story has no splash pages. It doesn't have any full-page or double-page spreads like a lot of other comic books do. And
Right.
I'm not talking just superhero comics. I mean comics in general generally have these pages in them, these huge visuals to get people's attention. However, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina seems to average at least 5 panels per page, which creates a lot more dialogue.
Yeah. It's a bit to chew through, especially when you're trying to speed read the damn thing so you could review it.
It's more than a bit. I mean, when they go through the origin of Sabrina's, yeah, birth would be the right word, or at least her first year of life here. Even that felt like it took a lot longer than it really is. It's only 4 or 5 pages, but it felt like it was an entire story of itself because of the dialogue and the slow pace between panels.
And not to mention a healthy amount of flashbacks.
Oh God, yes. I mean, even the
Yeah.
next story when she's approximately, it looks like 8 or 10 years old, I couldn't tell. It was still a very slow read. It took 2 or 3 pages to get through all this to where she gets her first familiar. And the story just felt like it was so much longer. And in the middle, they hemmed in this story where her father is trapped in a tree.
Yeah. Or then, oh, by the way, here's her cousin, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, when the cousin was dropped in just so nonchalantly, I thought, wait, is this a character we're sacrificing? But he made it through the entire volume. I was kind of surprised he lived.
I was too. I think the fact that I think the writers had to pull him in, but they didn't want to make a big to-do about it because they had all this other shit to do. So they just kind of dropped him in with a really short, oh, hey, I'm here because somebody short-sheeted me. Oh, okay. Well, you live in the attic. All right, moving on.
It also took me a little bit to get into the story because the first time Sabrina uses her abilities, she's using basically telekinesis and telepathy. I wasn't sure if this was one of those cases where people thought magic meant carry when the writer was putting this together.
I think that telekinesis tends to be magic shorthand in a lot of shows, and they did it in Buffy, and they've done it in Supernatural. They've done it here. Yeah, whenever they need some real brief witchery, throwing shit around telekinetically is basically going to go about it.
It seems
Right.
like the most basic form of magic anyone can do.
I only
Yeah.
I only say that because it wasn't until 20 issues in that something extra normal compared to the telepathic powers occurred. During the first part of the book, I saw a whole lot of occult imagery, but not a whole lot of what I would consider magical powers so much as just extra normal ones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the more I read about the more I read the comic, and I looked at the trailer for the upcoming show, it seems like they're gonna have a lot in common.
It does seem like
you know
one
what?
may borrow from the other quite a bit.
This
Yeah.
might work better in video format than on pages.
Yes.
I will agree. That's the problem with a static storytelling form when you're trying to tell an occult story, is that it's very hard to build the atmosphere you're looking for when you don't actually have a very big physical representation to chew through, like on a screen.
Right.
The best you have is your own imagination, and unless you spent time around woods in the dark, it may be hard for people to picture why that can be unnerving to people who aren't used to it.
Yeah, and that show actually should be out. Well, it will be out.
I think it's in
before
another week
this,
here.
It's going to be out before this podcast even gets published, so
Yeah.
you
But
guys should be able to make your own decision.
yeah, the art just had several issues of definition, especially in this first issue. Like, I really wasn't aware Sabrina was turning, platinum there until somebody mentioned that her hair was turning white. I thought she was just, like, really bright blonde.
Yeah, I thought it was just lazy coloring. I had the exact same problem.
And the imagery of the primary villain here, Iola, who later took over the guise of one of the teachers at the high school, when I first flipped to that page and saw her face, I was a little bit freaked, but then I had more questions than I had scared feelings.
Well, I mean, she was in hell, and in hell they do get creative.
Right, and she mentioned later in the book that when she went to hell after her suicide, she had no face, probably because the lion ate it. Yes, that's in the volume. But at the same time, I don't know when she decided that her eyes should be the skulls of infants.
That might be.
I don't know,
That might be a result of her time in hell.
but
Okay.
they said that she was in a oh god, my brain is actually freaking out. A Dante's kind of hell, and in that case, she's in the circle of suicides, and suicides are faceless.
Okay, well, now, here's the part that really pulled me out of the story for a couple minutes while I asked this question. You're in hell. You have no face. Why do you bother doing your lipstick?
Because it's horrific.
Is it? Because to me, that's almost literally lipstick on the proverbial pig.
Well, like I
it-
said,
Mm.
hell gets creative.
Right, but why wasn't it, like, around her teeth or on her teeth? No, she had lips and lipstick. And I was sitting there thinking, how does that work?
I hate to try to explain everything. I feel I feel compelled to. I don't know why. But this just feels like more of the 50s horror shtick, where you're just shocked by the imagery and less about the practicality of it.
I wasn't thinking practicality. It's just that took me away from being shocked. The infants in the eyes and no face, that had my attention. Then I saw the lipstick on the teeth in the shape of lips. That almost seemed like it seemed like something the Joker would do. Well, this would look nice, dearie.
Well, I mean, she is demented, she's evil, but she's also vain.
And apparently,
Yeah.
So it's
And-
very reasonable that she just wanted to have lips in hell and decided that was what's going to happen.
and apparently after her resurrection, Avon was calling.
Or either that, or sleepy cabin girl was offering her face. Pick one.
But she had the lipstick before she had the face.
Hey, some girl just want to be pretty, all right?
Okay. The story of how she got to town is long.
Mhm.
It's nice that they answered the question as to how Sabrina's mother, or where Sabrina's mother ended up. Although the resolution of that story was also a little bit bizarre and kind of long-winded.
And unresolved because Sabrina's mom is still alive and completely aware of her surroundings.
Right. Sabrina, meanwhile, has settled into her town. I forget the name of it.
Greendale.
Greendale?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Greendale.
Greendale.
All right. It's more basic than I remember.
Yeah.
And she apparently has to take her satanic rites at the age of 16 during a midnight.
Which back then is considered adulthood.
Yeah. Another
Yeah.
midnight ceremony. Iola, the woman from hell, is taken on the guise of Miss Evangeline Porter, who was a regular in the Sabrina comic books by Archie.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't quite know. It feels like there's a lot to unpack here, except the problem is a lot to unpack is a whole lot of dialogue and a lot of world building that doesn't seem to quite live up to its goals.
Well, from what I understand, these issues were very far apart. So maybe a lot of exposition was necessary because there'd be like 6 months between one issue or something like that.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, but the primary exposition wasn't exposition via box, it was exposition via dialogue. It's like a lot of people felt like they had to explain a lot of what they're doing at any given moment. And I will say, though, I'm kind of surprised that regardless of how good he was at football, somebody didn't name Harvey Kinkle Kinky Harvey or something.
It's the 60s. These kids don't know what the hell kinky is.
Harvey Kinkle is Sabrina's love interest in this volume, and no, he doesn't survive it.
No, he sure doesn't. God damn, does he not?
Well, he had a lot of flags set up during his appearances in the first 4 issues of what was going to happen to him.
Yeah, we all knew that something horrible was going to happen.
Yeah,
I mean, he had his jaw eaten off.
Yeah, I mean, there was the part where Sabrina cast a spell so he would fall in love with her. There was the fact that he was always hanging around and asking way too many questions about what she does with her private life, even though he just kind of accepted it when she said, "You don't want to know." And then there was the fact that he was getting really amorous and physically, I don't know, I don't want to say aggressive, but at least pushy about it when she was turning 16, which, as Casey pointed out, back in the 60s, that was the age of consent.
Mm-hmm.
So, when all that came together, it's just like, okay, it's not a matter of if you're going to die, just how.
Yeah, and he checked out pretty heavily at the manipulations of Madam Satan.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of the things I kind of got about this. The main characters are obviously Satanists. I mean, we're not even talking like, oh, we're just arcane witches. We pull forth from the other dimensions for power. No, these bitches are Satanists.
Yeah, it's not even that moderated type of evil you get in anti-heroes. It's not I have to do this so that I can save a bunch of people. These are unrepentant, wicked individuals.
Yeah, and honestly, if Harvey had showed up, Sabrina would have been totally all about it without even a problem. And it should be noted, she wasn't really that sad afterwards. She just kind of, oh, my aunts killed him. All right.
I'm wondering if there's
a shock.
Yeah, I was wondering if there was a level of shock or disbelief about it, because she did go through a lot of trouble to get him resurrected. But, even though that failed.
Now, while she's watching them as they're explaining to her what they did to Harvey and, the setup that they did with these 3 revolutionary scumbags, for a brief one-frame moment, she sees them for who they really are, which are these deformed, scarred hags.
Yeah. Because
instead of the illusions of normal human beings.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's not said anything, It just happens. You don't get a reaction from Sabrina at all. She just moves on.
I will say I was kind of impressed there in issue, I guess it was 3, when Harvey tripped across this scene. I was actually surprised that Archie went the full Monty on the satanic ritual they'd crafted for the event. I mean, I wasn't expecting that much imagery, as well as the summoning of the devil itself.
The appearance of Betty and Veronica.
Yeah, they went far in this, and I do give them kudos for that. But I guess it's just kind of a case that may be another problem I had reading this volume, was the fact that there is technically no heroes here whatsoever.
No.
It's hard to empathize with even Sabrina as a character, because even though she is not an inherently evil person, she appears to have some level of moral and ethics to her. The problem is she's terribly accepting of all these other individuals who have none of either.
Yeah, she doesn't ever doubt, oh, hey, this is Satan. Isn't that evil? Nah, Totally down with it.
She doesn't really know the difference. This is all she's known and been taught.
Yeah, we're thrown off by the fact that she obviously knows love and she knows friendship and she appreciates her elders and she's respectful. But when it really comes down to it, she's just as innately evil as the supporting characters.
Well, she also makes very limited decisions throughout this first 5 issues of any sort, really. I mean, dating Harvey Kinkle was the most decision-making she did.
Yeah.
Everything else, even the decision to resurrect him, was a coercion by an outside party. 90% of her decisions are coercions by other characters who are probably more evil than half the politicians we deal with in our lifetimes.
Wow, she's a passive character.
She's very
so
passive.
You gotta wonder, when is Sabrina gonna get her feet? You know, when is she going to become...
do something.
Yeah, when is she gonna do something based on her own conscience?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what we're waiting for, and I think it's what did not yet happen. You get the hints of it with that frame I was telling you about, you know, with her seeing her aunts for who they really are.
Yeah.
That's a first hint that she might want to do something other than the people around her are telling her that she wants to do.
Yeah, she shows little parts of quiet rebellion, but she still doesn't show much by the way of personal initiative. Maybe that's another issue I had here, is that I've spent a while reading about very strong-willed female characters, and as much as this book was written in 2017, she doesn't feel like one of those characters.
She isn't.
All the other women around her feel like that.
Yeah, the women around her are forceful individuals, but they are down in true evil.
Yeah. Yeah, easily. And I don't know if they were doing it, making this long-winded so they could have a long narrative, you know, so they could have several issues.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that when they were putting this together that they knew that it was going to take them 2 years to do 8 issues. But that's what happened.
You know,
Honestly, a lot of this could have been done with less pages.
Yeah. Wow. You know, I think that this review is going to be less about, hey, you know, the art was this and the story was this. And I think it really is just going to be about, God damn it, Sabrina. God damn it, Sabrina, do something.
Okay.
You know, and the story was, I enjoyed the story. I really did. And I usually don't enjoy word-thick pages. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm a reader. I enjoy reading. When I'm reading comics, I need a break. Mm-hmm. Like you said, I need a big splash page, kind of show me some action, show me that, you know, the book is progressing. But if you just got word salad every single page, every single frame, it's gonna get tiring.
If I have to take a break take several breaks in the middle of one issue, there's a problem.
Yeah. You know,
now here's the other side.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm dominating this. The other side is, I read those frames. They made sense to me. I enjoyed what they were telling me, and they did push for it. Even if I wasn't really thrilled with how Sabrina was handling herself, everything around her was super cool. Like Madame Satan's story, I loved that, and what she was doing, all the manipulations, even the process of her recovering and living in that lake for weeks on end before walking out. All that stuff, that was cool. I loved it, and I loved reading all the little details about it. But I can understand why a casual reader coming in and seeing this, that has my kind of feelings about word salad, would find this a little daunting.
All right. You know, there's a few other things that could potentially be unpacked here, but I don't want to get long-winded because I feel like that was one of the failings of this book, was that they tended to use 10 words when 5 would do. And the other thing that kind of occurs to me is that Jesse was right in the fact that a lot of this could have been cut down. The witch trial itself seemed to run a couple pages longer than it really needed to get the point across.
And it had a page flashback in the middle of the trial.
Mm-hmm. You know, I don't mind dialogue-heavy books as long as the dialogue actually brings some more clarity or some more development to the characters. The problem was, though, the dialogue didn't really change the characters at all. It didn't really define them any further. It just kind of reinforced the idea of, yes, we're evil, yes, we're evil, yes, we're evil. Sabrina, yes, we're evil, you know, and it kept going.
Yeah, that's yeah.
So, should we just go ahead and wrap this up?
Yeah.
Okay. Jesse, roll it.
All right. I mean, I personally I don't like the art, but I think the art got what it needed was appropriate for the story that is being told. So I'm not gonna dog it for that. Although I'll express I did not like the art.
Okay.
Long-winded, very uninteresting dialogue, and the few times where it broke out of being kind of this monotone textbook felt very vapid to me. The story finally got interesting when we got to halfway through issues 3 and on.
Right.
But overall, this was... I'm not sure who I could recommend this to, even if someone was into Sabrina or occult stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I would give this one, I don't know, 4.
Okay. Hey, it's all personal opinion, man. There is no right or wrong answer. Casey, what have you got here?
This is another one of those that's kind of tricky to review because I typically look at superhero comics and I know exactly what I want. I want nice, clean art. I want a dialogue that's going to push the story forward. I want a consistency in my character. I don't want him backpedaling because of poor writing in a previous issue. That kind of stuff. That really doesn't come into play at all here. We're given a character. We got a completely different art style that's reminiscent of old creep show, House of Horrors kind of stuff from the EC Comics era, and I appreciate that. I actually do, because it almost shows a respect to the source material that they're trying to pull from. Mm-hmm. It is put together a little too wordy. It did seem like they were trying to increase page count, mm-hmm. kind of fluff their book a bit, and that can be viewed as lazy writing. I don't know if they just felt like all these unnecessary flashbacks were really important. I mean, you could have just cut right to the quick and said Sabrina's dad is kind of a piece of shit, but he liked this human woman. They got together. They had a kid. Obviously, the woman pulled a Rosemary's Baby and kind of ran off with it. It didn't work out. Yeah, cool. Do we really need a flashback scene involving the dad in the middle of the trial about how cool he is? No, because he's fucking dead. Of course, he does come back as our good boy, Mr. Kinkle.
Yeah.
At the very end, but
then he became Kinky Harvey. Okay.
He did become Kinky Harvey. In fact, especially if he starts dating his own daughter. Oh my God! That's
no!
It's gonna go so wrong. This is a hard one to review because I really do like dark takes things like this. Damn. I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna start with a 10, and I'm gonna start deducting for the shit that I didn't like, which was the word salad, and Sabrina's milk wallflower attitude towards morality, and I'm gonna give it a 7.
Ooh.
Okay. Myself, I had some difficulty with this. I agree with the concepts that the art wasn't bad. I do agree that they were going for a throwback kind of art style. However, the consistent use of the amber color palette in almost every background, regardless of where they were, started to drive me up a wall. In addition to which, yes, this book is very word heavy without actually advancing anything that you couldn't get from the first couple issues, really, regarding any character. The appearance by some Archie characters was fun, however, some of it felt a little bit tacked on, like it wasn't quite realized in whichever way they wanted to go. They had to get very descriptive, I imagine, in some of the stuff they were doing in dialogue, simply because it's a static storytelling medium, and I think that the artist or the writer and the artist could visualize what they wanted, but they didn't quite know how to put it on the page. In addition to which, we have a whole lot of unresolved items in this first volume. It didn't feel like any particular storyline was brought to a head. Whether it be Sabrina's dating life, her family life, her obligations in the Satanic Church, or even what in the world Miss Evangeline Porter was after all this time. We have some instances of it, but I don't know if she resurrected her former paramour for revenge or for love.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there really wasn't any sort of resolution on any end, except for the fact that technically Harvey's still dead.
A footnote to this:
Okay.
as we're reviewing this, the Netflix series is about 3 days, 2 hours, and 16 minutes away from premiere.
Yeah.
Reviews have been circulating, and the current Metascore on this is 79. With the most recent review I did with Forbes calling it the surprise supernatural hit of the year.
Okay. I mean, maybe if this was translated directly into a series, if the comic book was the basis for a series, maybe they could set up the scenery a little better, and some of this would flow better, in my opinion. But I just think we had a book that aspired to something high and never quite reached it. I'd probably have to give it a 5.
That's fair.
Yeah.
All right. So now the subject becomes, what do we want to do for next week? And I still have a couple possibilities here. I actually have 2 different Marvel volumes, since it's been a little bit since we've been in their books. Oh, no, we did Domino last time. That's right, we did Domino last time.
Yeah, we did, but who cares? Let's see what you got.
Well, I actually have 4 different things in the hopper right now. I have the
right.
first volume of Mockingbird by Chelsea Kane, the lady who was recently removed from the Vision follow-up. I have the first 5 issues of Super Sons. Not the current volume, but the one prior. That was related by Jesse, since he wants to see if he could ever like Damian Wayne.
Yes.
I have the first...
Neither one of those is flying my skirt up. I hope the other 2 are good.
I have Supergirl Being Super by Mariko Tamaki. It was a retelling of the origin of Supergirl. I can't say if it's DC canon, but Mariko Tamaki is the lady who has been killing it with the X-23 series lately.
Oh, what's your last choice?
The first volume of X-Men Red, The Hate Machine.
We didn't do that? No, we didn't.
We have not done X-Men Red.
I think I brought that up. That's the reason why I probably got it in my head.
No, you may have it in your head because the first time we did something like this, it was about Phoenix Resurrection just before X-Men Red. And while we were compiling a list of things we were interested in, I brought up X-Men Red just because we were kind of low on Marvel projects during the conversation.
Damn. I want to kind of squeeze in something that I like in there.
And that is?
It's an old one. Villains United.
Villains? Oh my god, I pissed all over that.
Did you?
Yeah, I did not like that at all.
That's Gail Simone, man. That's the precursor for Secret Six.
I know. Secret Six I thought was pretty good. Villains United felt like a huge slog to me.
Well, oh god, I don't want to just throw in Secret Six because everybody knows I'm just going to throw 9s and 10s all over that, and it's going to feel disingenuous.
No, you're not going to throw 9s and 10s. You're going to throw fluids all over it to the point where the internet may actually second guess how much porn is on it.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Can't help the fact that it's a fantastic book.
Let's try with something unknown then.
God damn. How about Scott Pilgrim?
I wanted to bump that just a little bit, but I can put that on the list because I gotta admit, Jesse had my attention when he brought up Super Sons. It's way outside my norm as well.
It is mine too. You want to just do Super Sons then?
Yeah, we can do Super Sons.
Okay.
All right. So it'll be the first 5 issues of the prior series, not the current mini-series where they're fighting alien fans of supervillains.
Yeah, my roommate is reading old school Scott Pilgrim books, so I'm kind of laying around the house, and I've got like volume 2 right here in front of me, so
yeah,
I wouldn't mind taking a look at the first one.
Can get to that, but man, it would have to be just a section of the first one because those volumes are thick. I read them all a while ago.
Actually, you'd be surprised that the volumes are not that thick, and the frames are so large that you can just digest this thing in a day.
Yeah,
casual reading.
Yeah, I just remember slowing down on it in the later volumes because, man, they spent a while trying to tie up everything.
Well, the second volume I'm looking at right here takes place right after, right after his roommate says you got to break up with knives. Yeah. That's where it starts. And then it ends right before Clash at Demon Head's concert.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's kind of the pacing of that.
All right. So next week it'll be Super Sons 1 through 5. Thank you very much for tuning in. Hope you'll roll with us again next week. I know that a few episodes haven't been up. The editor that throws these things up for us, he had a personal emergency, but he just got back and he apologized. So thank you very much. Thank you again to DVS Gaming. If you see me at LA Comic-Con, come say hi. I am Jeremy.
I'm Salem the Cat.
I can't follow up for that.
Okay. All right. Well, Jesse's cleaning the litter box. Thank you very much.